The storm came suddenly, like it had been waiting for them. Daniel Morgan was used to long drives through the countryside. His work as a freelance photographer often took him deep into forgotten towns, abandoned buildings, and roadside places most people would never bother to look twice at. But this trip was different. His girlfriend, Claire, had insisted on joining him. She loved ghost stories, loved the thrill of the unknown, and when Daniel mentioned he had found an old house outside a town called Ashen Hollow, she practically begged to come along. By late afternoon, the road had dissolved into winding dirt tracks. The trees leaned close on either side, their blackened trunks twisting in unnatural shapes, like figures frozen in silent screams. Daniel's headlights flickered, shadows darting across the windshield. The house appeared without warning. It stood at the edge of a hollow, its silhouette carved against the storm clouds like a wound in the sky. 3 stories tall, with boarded windows and a roof sagging in the middle, the house seemed alive. Its darkened frame groaned under the weight of years, and the air around it smelled faintly of wet soil and iron. "This is it," Daniel said, his voice flat, though inside he felt his stomach tighten. Claire, ever braver than him in matters like this, smiled. "It's perfect." They entered through the broken front door, stepping into a hallway lined with peeling wallpaper and warped floorboards. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally, like the house was hollow inside, stretching further than its frame should allow. Dust hung in the air, disturbed only by their movement. Daniel raised his camera and snapped a shot. The flash illuminated the hallway for a fraction of a second, and in that instant, he swore he saw a figure at the end of the corridor. A shape, humanoid, bent and twisted. But when the light died, there was nothing. "Did you see?" he began. "See what?" Claire asked. "Never mind." He shook it off. His mind was playing tricks on him. It always did in places like this. They moved from room to room, documenting what they could. Furniture sat exactly where it had been abandoned decades ago, a rocking chair turned toward a window, a piano with its keys rotted into silence, a dining table set with cracked plates that still bore the outline of long-vanished meals. The storm outside worsened. Wind screamed through the broken windows, rattling the house until it seemed the whole structure might collapse. And then they heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the wind, or the rain, or the groaning wood. A soft tapping, rhythmic, like fingernails against glass. Claire froze, her flashlight beam jittering against the wall. "Daniel, where's that coming from?" He followed the sound down the hall. It led them to a locked door beneath the staircase. The tapping grew louder as they approached. Daniel put his ear against the wood. The tapping stopped. And then, just above a whisper, came a voice. "Let me out." His blood ran cold. He staggered back, nearly dropping his camera. Claire, trembling, grabbed his arm. "Daniel, don't," she whispered. But he had to. He didn't know why, curiosity, madness, or something darker pulling at him, but he had to. He fumbled with the rusted latch, forcing it open. The door creaked wide. Behind it, there was no closet, no crawlspace, only stairs leading down into darkness. The air that wafted up was wrong. Heavy, damp, and carrying the sickly sweet stench of rot. Claire begged him not to go, but Daniel couldn't stop himself. Each step creaked under his weight, and each breath grew colder. The flashlight barely pierced the blackness, swallowing the beam before it reached the walls. At the bottom, there was a room. And in the room, a chair. Strapped to the chair with leather belts was a figure, gaunt, skeletal, its skin stretched tight against bone. Its eyes were sewn shut with black thread, lips stitched in the same cruel fashion. The figure twitched at their presence, its body spasming violently, as though trying to speak through the threads. Claire screamed. The figure jerked once more, and then every light went out. The sound that followed was indescribable, hundreds of whispers, overlapping, coming from every corner of the basement. The walls seemed to vibrate with voices. Daniel clutched Claire's hand in the dark, trying to find the stairs, but the steps had vanished. The room stretched outward, expanding into impossible dimensions. Flashes of light burst from his camera, firing on its own, each one capturing something different, dozens of figures hanging from the ceiling, mouths open in silent wails. Hands reaching from the walls, grasping at them. Faces forming in the shadows, too close, far too close. One flash illuminated Claire. Her face was pale, eyes wide, But behind her stood something taller than the room itself, its head scraping the ceiling, its mouth stretching impossibly wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth. Daniel dropped the camera. The whispers grew into screams. Something grabbed him by the shoulders, pulling him backward. His vision went white, his ears ringing as though he had been submerged underwater. He thrashed and fought, but his body felt weightless, disconnected. And then, silence. When Daniel woke, he was lying outside, soaked by the storm, the house looming behind him. The door was shut. Claire was gone. He ran to the car, but it was dead. His phone was shattered in his pocket. The camera was missing. Only one thing remained with him, a photograph, damp and bent, lying on his chest. He picked it up with shaking hands. It was a picture of him and Claire, standing in the basement. Behind them, the stitched figure sat in its chair. But in the photo, its eyes were open. And they were smiling.